Aquaman is so damn gorgeous, and no, I'm not talking about Jason Momoa, but you know what? The point still stands for him too, for being honest. Originally, you'd be able to say that Aquaman was the beginning of the DCEU finding its brand new identity and actually having a legitimate good series of movies. But you know, that got ruined. Ooh, foreshadowing, am I right? Not that it means much, but Aquaman is actually up there when it comes to the film rankings of the DCEU. Aquaman is filled with action-packed sequences, memorable set pieces, and of course, Jason Momoa is still as good as ever remembered. However, after rewatching Aquaman, there's one specific thing I noticed, and it might be Aquaman's biggest flaw. This one thing is cleverly hidden throughout the entirety of Aquaman. Don't worry, we'll get right into it and discuss, but first things first. As always, I'm your host, Justin, otherwise known as IDontBeatGames, and I'm here to bring that DCEU content right to your monitors. Aquaman's biggest flaw is simple. They spend way too much amount of time standing around and giving us exposition. Throughout Aquaman, there's various scenes within the movie that slightly slows down the eventual fast-paced movie that Aquaman could have been entirely. Granted, I understand that they had to establish Aquaman's origin story in Atlantis' lore. Honestly, I don't even have a problem when it comes to any of that, because it's legitimately needed. Plus, who doesn't love Aquaman or Atlantis, right? But the biggest problem is that they could have done this in a more interesting way. Take Wonder Woman for example. Let's specifically use Ares' backstory for discussion purposes. Without making it boring, Ares' backstory is told with these beautiful visuals that manages to not only make the story more interesting, but at least gives us a better idea of this backstory. Ares isn't really spoken about heavily in Wonder Woman, but with the information we're given, it's enough for us to care, and it's done in a way that isn't just standing around. This brings us back to Aquaman. Aquaman's backstory or various lore points that are spoken about through the early portions of the movie aren't nearly as interesting as they could be because nothing really uplifts that information. They do this towards the middle or end portion of Aquaman when talking about the Trident of Neptune and its origin story. However, they don't really do this for other backstories or lore that they give us early on. Despite this though, they at least manage to hide these bad parts of Aquaman by constantly giving us somewhat of an action sequence immediately after these scenes. So in a way, there's somewhat of a solution that's done to counter this flaw. There's honestly not too much to harp on when it comes to the negatives of Aquaman, but while we're talking about his flaws, it's time we talk about Black Manta. Yeah, that story for Black Manta, it's sort of laughable. Aquaman comes into contact with Black Manta and his father in the literal beginning of the movie. Black Manta and his father are pirates who pretty much steal ships. This is what causes Aquaman to come and save the day, so Aquaman decides that he's just gonna let the ocean decide Black Manta's father's fate after they all fight. Black Manta though thinks that Aquaman should save his father, despite them literally causing a fight with Aquaman. They decided to take it upon themselves to fight him so they can steal this ship they're on, an idea which utterly fails, of course, since Aquaman decides to let the ocean decide his father's fate. Aquaman's decision is understandable. It's not a phenomenal decision. It's not an awful decision, but it's a decision that you can sort of shrug off and be like, yeah, alright, I guess why not. The problem with this is that Black Manta holds this grudge against Aquaman entirely, and in the beginning, it genuinely seems important. This seems like it's going to be a huge deal throughout the entire movie, but honestly, it just comes and goes story-wise. For research purposes, I wrote this down. Black Manta appears in the beginning of the movie, right? He doesn't show back up until the 1 hour and 17-minute mark where Ocean Master, Aquaman's younger brother and the main antagonist of the movie, gives him his armor. That's then followed by a montage of Black Manta building his armor, which is fairly short. We get a few more minutes of Aquaman after that, and then 10 minutes later, Black Manta shows up again. This is where arguably the best scene in the entire DCEU up to this point and most memorable scene in Aquaman happens. It's this huge chase scene that lasts just about 7 minutes, and that's it for Black Manta and Aquaman. His story ends there, and they give us this after credit scene that teases his return for Aquaman's sequel. I entirely understand that it's not that big of a deal, but you know that I have to point out all of the flaws in movies. Come on, all of you know the deal by now. As for the positives of Aquaman, it's easily one of the most entertaining DCEU movies next to Wonder Woman, even though throughout the entirety of this series, we've established most of the DCEU aren't great movies. We still need to give credit where it's due. When Aquaman was in Justice League, I was immediately excited to see what he could do in his own movie. And honestly, I'm happy with Aquaman. The movie itself tells not only an interesting origin story with Aquaman, but also gives an actual happy ending that matters. In comic movies such as the entirety of the MCU, excluding Infinity War and Endgame, there's always a happy ending. There's almost never an ending where the world isn't saved, or the superhero doesn't overcome the struggle that they've been fighting throughout the entirety of the movie. In Aquaman, we get not only a happy ending for Aquaman himself, but his father as well, and honestly, I'd be lying to all of you if I said it didn't put a smile on my face. For years, Aquaman's mother was shunned away from the world after she fell in love with Aquaman's father who lives on Earth. Then she gets sent into the deep trenches to be alone forever. Eventually, yes, Aquaman finds her, and she ironically has the trident that he needs in order to defeat his stupid brother, who will rose soon, don't worry. However, every single day, Aquaman's father walked up to a dock and stood there for a few minutes, waiting to see if she'd ever come back to him. Literally every single day, this man would wake up at the same time and do this because of how much they loved each other. Typically, unless your name is honestly Bruce Wayne, most parents are forgettable when it comes to superheroes. However, in Aquaman, they made Aquaman's father memorable, even in spite of the fact that this man is only relevant in the beginning of the movie to help establish Aquaman before he becomes an actual hero with real growth. I know this sounds super corny, but seeing such a beautiful and wholesome moment for Aquaman's father legitimately put a smile on my face. Plus, it gave the man a much deserved win and tied up Aquaman nicely at the end. Aquaman's story is fairly simple. Aquaman doesn't want to deal with Atlantis because he's under the impression that his mother abandoned him on purpose. It's a big hang-up of his, but Mera pulls up on Aquaman after arguably one of the funniest scenes in the DCEU happens. Aquaman and his dad go to this bar together after Aquaman saves these sailors from Black Manta. Aquaman's just chilling, minding his own business, downing a couple of beers, cause that's what he does best, and these biker looking guys pull up on him acting all tough. Aquaman's ready for a full-on bar fight, only for them to be like, hey man, can I get a picture? Then this entire montage happens of them taking drunk photos together, and it still makes me laugh even after rewatching Aquaman several times now. It's just a hilarious touch, and honestly, it perfectly describes the tone of this movie. Anyway, it turns out that Aquaman's brother Orm wants to strike back at the world because of how we're treating the waters, which is worsening the conditions they're living in. Shockingly, I legitimately like this reason, and I like the fact that this was sort of a commentary on things going on in the real world. In fact, I liked it enough that I wish they made a bigger deal out of this plot point, but I digress. After a fun night at the bar, Aquaman and his drunk dad are leaving. As Aquaman is putting his dad in the car, here comes Mera to give Aquaman a warning about his brother. Long story short, Orm decides to flood the waters with all of the trash we've thrown into the water, and it turns into this big to-do. Aquaman decides to finally listen to Mera. He heads into the waters, which gives us this phenomenal look at Atlantis and life under the sea. I legitimately can't rave enough about how well done the underwater sea life is. It's so damn good. Whether people want to compare it to Marvel's Wakanda reveal moment is a different story. I'm not here to pin the two against each other, but I did love this Atlantis reveal way more simply because I adore the sea. There's a fun fact for everyone. Aquaman is basically told that he needs to stop his brother because he's evil, and if he gets too much power, bad things are gonna go down quick. Aquaman takes it upon himself to go on this journey to find this trident of Neptune thanks to his trainer Volko, who gave him all of this information. However, before he can, a bunch of Atlantean soldiers attack Aquaman and Mera. I'm just gonna say it, the designs of these soldiers consistently made me laugh because I was like, oh hey, the underwater Power Rangers are back. Aquaman gets captured and Orm confronts him finally. They fight each other in this massive, dope-looking, underwater Coliseum-looking duel arena. Things go south, and that leads to Mera saving Aquaman's ass as they flee away. Basically, Mera's gigantic plan is to make Orm think that they died in an awful crash so they can find the trident in peace, and he's clueless. Of course, because it's a comic movie, things go south, and basically Mera forgot that she was wearing a tracker. Then out of nowhere, Aquaman becomes an Uncharted movie, and I'm so here for it. We went from Earth to Atlantis to the Sahara Desert on some Nathan Drake vibes, and it's awesome. Mera and Aquaman eventually find out the location of the Trident after trekking through this awful desert. This leads to them heading to Italy because there's a statue there that'll help solve this riddle. But guess who's back? That's right, the underwater Power Rangers! This leads to my favorite scene in the movie that I touched on from earlier within the video. This leads into this full-on action sequence that is done from the perspectives of showing us both Mera and Aquaman on different levels of buildings being chased. It's genuinely the dopest thing that may be done throughout the entirety of the DCEU, no exaggeration. Once again, I know it's not that much of a competition, but still, the credit is absolutely deserved. After this super adventurous and Uncharted-like scene, Aquaman and Mera set sail. Where are they going? I don't really know, but I can tell you that Mera robbed a poor man. She just took his ship and sailed away without paying for it. You'd think, finally, the third act is about to be peaceful, and let me tell you, it's not. These dope-looking sea creatures from the trench start attacking Mera and Aquaman enough to make them jump ship. Literally. Eventually, Aquaman and Mera end up at the middle of Earth or whatever, and finally, the biggest revelation of them all happens. Aquaman discovers that his mother is alive and well. It's been 84 years. Okay, not literally, but I saw the opportunity to say the meme. Sue me. Aquaman's mother tells him that there's this sea creature guarding the Trident of Neptune. Aquaman eventually gets not only his trident, but dope-ass armor as well. Hey, anyone remember Orm, Aquaman's young brother? Yeah, he's doing things, I think. When you come to think of it, he doesn't do much in this movie. I mean, he tries, but he fails because he sucks. What do you expect? Aquaman decides it's finally time to show down with his brother, and an entire war breaks out under the sea. It's basically what every Star Wars movie looks like, but under the sea, and it's dope. I loved every bit of this. It was just so much action and it was so good looking. Aquaman and Orm finally have a showdown, sort of, kind of, on land. Orm, I have to do it to you, but who the hell told you to dress up like Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Like, my dude, I get that it's an expensive cosplay, but get some originality. Come on, this isn't New York Comic Con. Aquaman eventually kicks his brother's ass finally, and right when you think things can't get even more embarrassing for Orm, his mother appears. He's shell-shocked. Get it? Shell-shocked? Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles shell-shock? No? I'll stop. Aquaman is deemed King of Atlantis, and the movie ties itself together with Aquaman's dad walking to the dock one last time and finally seeing the love of his life after all these years. When it comes to the DCEU, Aquaman is officially the second best movie. It's under Wonder Woman and above Batman v Superman, which is shockingly at number 3 right now. It won't mean much considering we got Shazam and Birds of Prey next, then, dreadfully, Wonder Woman 1984. Ooh, foreshadowing, am I right? Anyway, Aquaman is still an absolute banger, and despite its minor flaws, I adore this movie. It's funny, it's adventurous, and I still think Jason Momoa is an entertaining Aquaman. It feels good to finally watch a good movie, you know? It might not be perfect and it might be flawed, but compared to the madness I had to endure to get here, it feels really good. Aquaman 2 better be bigger and grander because I'm so here for it. Give me more of Atlantis and adventures with Aquaman because I know damn well that it's going to be an entertaining one. As I said, we're wrapping up this series really soon, and honestly, I can't wait to reveal what's next. Don't worry, everyone will find out soon. We're about to have some real fun on the channel. As always, I'm your host, Justin, otherwise known as IDontBeatGames, and I'm here to bring that DCEU content right to your monitors. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you really enjoyed this video, hit that sub button. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, write a comment down below. Don't forget to keep it real with peace, love, and positivity.